Hi, I'm Trevor Conkergood. Welcome to our video series for learning how to use Sketch-A-Stitch software. And we'd like to start by thanking you for purchasing this new and exciting software. And this video is going to be a short overview of just how the program works, and then there'll be a series of other videos that are specific to things like how to choose the tools and how to use the preferences. I hope you enjoy all the classes. So the first thing that we thought you should learn is that the workspace is divided into tools on the left, tools across the top, and a properties box and sequence view on the right with your color palette down below. And notice that I have an empty workspace on the screen. And just looking down the left-hand toolbar, we've got Select, we've got Select All, we've got a shaping tool, we've got magnifying glass, ruler. Now we've got the ability to turn on three-dimensional view. This is how you add your backdrops. This is to turn on a grid in the background. This is to turn on the embroidery hoop. And this one is to select the embroidery hoop. And so now you're going to need to tell the software which format you would like to use, and so it knows kind of the hoop sizes based upon the different embroidery formats. And when you choose one of those formats, then all of the hoop sizes will relate to that size of machine. And you can also rotate the hoop to have a different orientation. This will be like an on-off button to see your embroidery stitches. This is to see the actual stitch points. This is for closing off a shape, and this is kind of like a toggle that'll turn on and off your backdrop so that you can temporarily not see it. We have the ability to use kind of like hidden things, so sort of make them hidden for a temporary period with the ghost mode. And this is how you can change your background display colors and things like that. And so the left-hand toolbar is mainly for maintenance and selecting and making edits. Up at the top, you have some sort of basic things like new, open, and save, and print preview, and cut, copy, and paste, and undo, redo. This is how you expose that properties box, so it's kind of like an on and off button. You have a program preferences option to turn that on. It tells you how zoomed in you currently are. This is a link to the Floriani Club on the internet. This is the slow redraw tool, which you'll learn about, which is actually just below here. And then you've got a backdrop library. And so this is just some basic artwork that came with the program, as well as some sort of tools that you'll use for editing. Sequence, and optimize entry exit points, as well as group and ungroup. Automatically turning on lock stitches, these kinds of things. This is an alignment tool and a distribute tool, and so we'll cover all of these things in the little video series. I'd also like to point out that there are more than one tab open at this time, which means I have more than one embroidery design open, and you can be working on as many designs as you want at the same time. And so notice that this design here of this little camper, you can see all of the colors of the design up at the top. That's the slow redraw tool, which you can turn on and off with this, what looks like a little speedometer up at the top. And that is your sewing simulator, and so when you click on that, it will simulate sewing the design and allow you to watch the design stitch out. You have the ability to speed that up, slow it down, you can pause it, you can actually move it one stitch at a time, and you can go forwards and backwards. You can also just grab the little blue current stitch locator and drag it to basically watch the design stitch out. And so that's very helpful to be able to understand exactly how a design is going to sew with the sewing simulator. The sequence view and the properties box that are over on the right are an important part of the program because, first of all, the sequence view shows you the sewing sequence of the design. It shows you, if you click on it, it will highlight that color of the design, and you could easily come down to your sort of color palette at the bottom and click on a different color to change that element of the design. You can actually expand these colors to see the individual pieces that may have made up that one, what we see as one color, is often made up of several smaller pieces. So the sequence view allows you to interact with and select specific things. It also allows you to change the sewing sequence by clicking and dragging to move the color. So if I select this first color and drag, I can make it come and sew, for example, after this red color. So it will come wherever, after whatever color you let go on top of. And of course, if you're like, oh, why did I do that? It's probably not a smart idea. You can hit your undo button, and that'll put things back. So you've got unlimited undo and redo buttons. So you can go back if you've tried something and you didn't like it. Just go back. The properties box currently allows me to type in design notes like, I made this design back in 2020 when it was during a pandemic. Or it could be, this is the camper that was made for the reunion in 2020, and it's notes to yourself. However, when you select on an actual shape in the design, the properties box is where you will go to change and interact with the preferences for the way that shape will actually sew out. It says it's a run stitch. It's got a stitch length of 2.5, and so we'll have a video to go through all of the different types of object properties in detail. But for now, the idea is you draw something or sketch something, and then you can select it and adjust its properties if you need to. So let's go back to the empty workspace and turn on the actual tool, which is right here, the sketchbook tool. And when I click on the sketchbook tool, the little blue widget appears. And really, the little blue widget is what's special about Sketch-A-Stitch, because it's a different and new and easy and innovative way of creating embroidery. If you click onto the little blue wheel over where it says brush, these will be all your different styles of embroidery that you can create. We can do tapered end. So these are all, the first few are all a steel stitch column. Plain steel, pressure sensitive steel, calligraphy, tapered ends. If you click on tapered ends, this is how the tool works. You click to start drawing and you drag with your mouse, and when you let go, it stops drawing. And it's pretty much as easy as that. As you click and drag, the software creates the shape. And because I chose tapered ends, you'll see that my shape has kind of like a small tip to it. A little tapered end, if you will. And so this is how the tool works. You choose the type of brush and you click and drag to draw the embroidery. And stitches are instantly generated. And so it's very simple. There are no complicated procedures. Just simply click and drag and let go. Choose your style of embroidery. So we can do an applique style. And I'll do a video just about applique to go through a lot of the different nuances that you can control when making an applique. This one's called a fill style. And with the fill style, when you click and drag, you draw an outline and it fills it in with thread. Let me turn on the three-dimensional view. See, these are like on-off buttons for things like 3D or a grid or your hoop. And so turn on the hoop and make sure your embroidery fits in it. Click to, notice I have the select tool. Click to select your shapes. Click and drag to move them. Click and drag on a corner handle to resize with proportion. Click and drag on a side handle to stretch or change the proportion. Click off to let go. And this is generally how it works. Click to turn on the sketchbook tool. Notice we still have fill stitch. That was applique. We have fill stitch, and we have bean stitch and run stitch. So these are all the different types of brushes. These are the different types of shapes. So right now we're drawing shapes. You do have some basic shapes like hearts and diamonds and etc., etc. And so you can create shapes and then just click and drag to make them like that. The other thing you can adjust here is the density. So if you click on the density, it allows you to see different pre-programmed stitch spacing amounts, and this will be a more open sort of style of stitching. Let's get close to the embroidery. And so if I draw a shape, let's say in a heart shape and a fill like that with an open spacing, you'll notice that you can almost see right through the stitching. Which if you had like a tapered end steel stitch, you would see it's very far apart unless you change it to be closer together. In which case now it will have a much closer spacing between the rows of stitches. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about the density or the stitch spacing. So this is in general how it works. And I think if you watch all of the videos, we'll learn about more specific program preferences. But once you've created some embroidery and maybe you just love this design, and now it's time to stitch it out. And so you say File and Save As. And now you choose the format that makes sense to you and is required for your embroidery machine. We always want to save the Floriani file to return to because it is the file that contains all of the information that the software is able to control. In other words, those program properties and preferences that we'll be able to learn more about and adjust are saved in your WAV file. When you want to stitch it out, then you save it to PES or JEF or VIP or VP3 or any of these formats. Even some of the long arm quilt formats are available now for Sketch-a-Stitch, and so you simply say Save As and choose where to save it. So for example, normally I save it onto a USB stick in one of the embroidery formats to take to the machine and select. And generally speaking, it will be as easy as that. And so this is just a short orientation to the software, and now I hope you enjoy watching the rest of the videos to give more detailed explanations of how it works.